Hey guys, welcome to Productivity Mastermind, and in this video I'm going to be going through my complete productivity framework. Simple 5-step process to start moving things forward. So let's dive in. So my name is Yanis. I'm an entrepreneur, a content creator and accountability coach. A couple of things that I've done and I'm proud of. So in 2019, I traveled around the world with my wife. So I left in 1st of December and I came back on 31st of December. So we visited 6 continents and it was a lifetime experience. It was always on my bucket list, something that I wanted to do. And yeah, in 2019 it happened and it was amazing. We did different things. You can see in a picture on a corner, we did a marathon with my wife. My wife did half marathon. I did full marathon for the first time in our life. Same as we did all other things for the first time in our life. So it was great. I've also gone through my body transformation. I used to be a long distance runner, so it all started with me being super skinny. On a picture on the left hand side on a corner, I'm 69 kilograms. Like I said, I used to be a long distance runner, so I had very skinny body, and no matter how much I ate or whatever I did, I just stayed like that, and you can literally see my spine and bones sticking out of my back. Now I educated myself, and I read a couple of books on nutrition and exercise, and I started to work out. And 1 year later, so a picture on the left and in the middle, it's exactly 1 year apart. I put 25 kilograms of body weight. So in the picture in the middle, I'm 94 kilograms. So I put on a lot of muscle as well as fat. And then it took me about 3.5 months to get rid of the fat and just leave the muscle mass. And obviously that's on the pictures on the right hand side. I'm also a content creator on YouTube. I have posted 200 plus videos so far, and it keeps counting. Now, most of the videos are time management and productivity related, and probably most people would have found me through this source. So far, I've gathered 5.9 thousand subscribers, so it's not a huge channel, but you got to start at the beginning, and then you got to build it up. Okay, so what we're gonna cover today. So today we're gonna go through my complete productivity framework. We're gonna start looking at the vision, then we're gonna look at the goals. We're also gonna cover time blocks, project lists, and CME system. Now that might sound scary, but it's just an acronym. Once we're gonna get to that point of presentation, everything is gonna be super clear. Okay, tools. So there's going to be a couple of tools that we're going to use. Luckily, there's only a couple of them and they're very simple. So it's going to be Google Calendar and Google Tasks. These tools are cross-platform solutions, meaning that whether you work on desktop, whether you have an iPhone or Android phone, it's gonna synchronize and it's gonna work on all of these platforms. So they're cross-platform solutions, which are great. They're also very easy to use and they are completely free, so there's no reason not to use them. Google Calendar particularly, we're going to use for time blocking, which is my favorite planning method. And then Google Tasks, we're going to use for project lists and CME system. Okay, let's start with a vision. Let's start from the top. So what is vision? Vision is basically a bigger picture of something that you want to achieve or the position that you want to acquire. I would suggest the vision to be anywhere in between 1 to 3 years. This is because if it's going to be further down the line, it's going to be really hard to see any actionable steps in order to achieve it. And if it's going to be closer, then it's not really the vision, it's more like a goal. That's something that you want to achieve. So optimally, I would aim for 1 to 3 years, and also try to be specific. Don't be vague, because out of the visions, we're gonna have to create goals. So you got to be specific. Okay, when you think about the vision, like I said already, I like to think about the vision as a structure, because even if you decided that, I don't know, your vision is to get a supercar, I don't know, you want Ferrari, or you want a villa, it's going to be really hard for you to see any actionable steps, because around that vision, you're still going to have life going on. So you really don't just want to see individual aspect of that, but you also want to see how everything is going to fit together. And of course, these luxurious things can be things that inspire you, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. But you got to see a visual steps that you can take in order to achieve this vision. Right, so here is my 3-year vision. I'm gonna have multiple visions, so you will see. So this is my 3-year vision. You can see that I've broken it down into categories. I've got team, I got content, I got platform, and I got products. And then I have visualized it in the middle part with the little blocks. And on the right hand side, I've got a reason for each of these steps. Now, this is my bigger vision that I would like to achieve in a 3 years time. And then I also have a 1-year vision. Now, this is a closer vision, and I have different visions because the closer the vision is, easier it is to see actionable steps. Now, these visions are slightly different. So if you look at this vision, we've got team, content, funnel, and product. And if we go back to previous slide, the third item from the top is a platform. Now, this is because the platform is most expensive part of the process. And I already tried to develop the application as a prototype, but it didn't really work out. And when the retention data came back, it wasn't really, going anywhere. So I had to pull back, and I had to refocus my efforts onto creating content. And that's why I decided, hey, my vision now is going to be to just build a funnel and put a lot of effort into creating a lot of content to build more and more relationships. So let's go more in detail through my vision. So first one is the team. Now the team is, in your business, whatever you do, your team is going to be handling different operations. And team is, in my business, team is creating content and, partially responsible about all different operations that involves, content creation, whether it's, video editing or administrative tasks. It's very, very important. So they're involved a lot in, content creation, and your team eventually is going to help you to grow and scale business, because you have a limited time. You're not going to be able to do everything. So it's better to start to, develop these relationships and work and build a team at the early days. So that's why it's like a foundational layer that I think every business needs to, in order to grow and expand. Now the next step is content. Content is really providing value as well as building relationships with the potential customers, future prospects, and it's a fundamental thing if you want to help your business to grow. Of course, you got alternatives. You can do different things. You can use different tools to try to achieve the same goal, to get customers for the business. But I feel that by providing value, you're really building a better relationships. And at the end of the day, it's going to be easier to do the business with somebody who you have provided value rather than with somebody who you just try to throw the ad in his face. Step number 3 is the funnel. So funnel is really connecting your business with the potential prospects. So a lot of people might be consuming your content, but only a little portion will actually, go and want for more content. So it also develops a new opportunities to communicate. So once you have people on your list, you can do email marketing, and you can provide even more value to those people who are like your little inner circle or closer to you. And then of course the final step is the product. In my case currently, I'm focusing on one-on-one coaching. it provides business with the income, it helps business to grow, and it adds even more and more value to the customers. Because one thing is, the content that I create, I would go and I would research and I would, put some, best strategies in specific scenarios. But then when you work with the people individually, they usually have their own specific situations. So I feel that I can add a lot more value if I'm working with the people on one-on-one basis. Okay, so how to come up with a good vision? That's probably your next question. Now, the visions are very diverse. There are different types of the things that people want to achieve. So the visions are really broad. If for some people it might be they might want to become a bodybuilder. So their vision, that's going to be their vision. For the students, it might be finishing university with a good grades, and that's what they want to focus on. Some people want to get in shape. And for myself, I want to build business. I want to be an entrepreneur. So it's going to be something different, and that's why I provided this structure, so you can see how I have put together my vision. There is not really a magic formula. So my best, the best thing that I can give you guys is, I will link, in the description of this video, I will link the template on my vision. So if you want to take it as a starting point, then please do, and then work from there and adjust how how it fits your needs. And the final point on the vision is, make sure your vision is written down in some form. Now, I personally use Google Drawings because it's shareable, it's easy to access for me from any device. But you can write it down in your notes. You can write it on a sheet and stick on a wall, or you can just put it in your journal. It doesn't matter, but it has to be written down, because you're going to be going back to your vision and refreshing it, time and time again. Okay, we're moving on. The next step in our process is goals. So let's start. Right. You should aim at only having one goal at a time. Now, of course, we all have multiple goals, and in order to achieve, our vision, we're going to have multiple goals. But at any given time, it's the best if you focus on only one thing. Your goal should be achievable in 3 months. Now, this is really, really important, because if it's going to be longer period than 3 months, then it's going to be, you're going to lose that drive to focus on it, because it's going to be so far ahead. Because it's what happens with the general goal setting. People set goals. They have 3 to 4 goals. They set them for 1 year, and then what happens is at the beginning they feel excited because they feel like they're getting lots of done, because they're working on goal number 1, goal number 2, goal number 3, and 4, and they do it throughout the year. And then when the year end comes, they realize that they haven't achieved anything. So that's why I suggest like to focus on 3 months, because it's very optimal. And if you fail to achieve that goal, then you're going to have to sit down and really ask yourself why you didn't achieve it. Was it too big? What else happened? What other things were happening? So it's going to require you to sit down and fix it in a second quarter, rather than wait for a year and then be disappointed. So it's very important. Now, it's not set in stone. It doesn't have to be exactly 3 months. It can be, it can be 1 month. It can be 2 months, and it also can be 4. It's not, like I said, it's not set in the stone. But try not to go over these 3 months if possible. So make your goal as big to fit this 3 months time frame. So if you're talking about producing a certain amount of content, then calculate and estimate how much content you want to aim for, because your goal needs to be achieved in 3 months time. Now, goals and vision. Each goal that you set must contribute to your vision. This is why I said you need to make sure that your vision is written down, because your goals, every goal that you have and you're working towards, has to contribute to the vision that you're trying to achieve. Otherwise, what's the point of doing that? Okay, so let's look at some of the examples. Here I have highlighted, a couple of goals that I can see in my vision. So you'll see that I have two goals pointing towards content. Now this is because I have two different goals for my content. Goal number one is to build a system or infrastructure in my team so that we can effectively produce content. And goal number two is to produce a certain amount of the content. Then you'll see that I have a goal arrow pointing towards the blog. That is another thing that is on our schedule. And then I have one goal that is related to the funnels. So that's basically how I've planned out this year. Now here are my sample goals. Obviously I've highlighted them here. I've got one goal per quarter. Each goal has a project and there is a reason for each goal. So it's better if when you set goal, you should be asking yourself to at least write one or two sentences like why I really want to achieve this goal. Because if you do that earlier, you might find out that there might not be the reason for that goal. So you can instantly adjust and change it. And you will see that my goal has got a couple of like green columns and a couple of yellow boxes. That's because the greens are done and yellows are, work in progress. Okay, here is a bad example. This is exactly what I wanted to point out. This is how people most of the time set goals. So they've got 2020 goals, obviously everything the same. So they got four goals per year. There is no clear structure. It's not clear when people are going to be working on each goal. It's just going to be like, they're going to work on everything. So they're going to be multitasking because then they're going to feel really good. And then they're going to be really disappointed at the end of the year because they won't have achieved these goals. So this is like, I just want to show you that such a small, adjustment to, separating these goals in different quarters can make a huge difference on whether you achieve your goals or not. And this is closely related to the progress. How quickly you can progress with certain things. And if you have all the things happening, everything is going to be going forward by that much, because if you have, let's say, 2 hours a day available and you focus on four things, you can physically dedicate half an hour for each of these things. So you basically don't really achieve anything while you switch from one goal to another. You lose time, you lose focus, and nothing, moves forward. That's why it's really important. And in my framework, we focus on having one goal per quarter. Now, there is exceptions, and I don't want you to say, okay, I have multiple things, like I really need to do these multiple things. And of course, it's possible. All I'm saying is the less is better. Yeah, the less goals you can focus, preferably one, better it is. When you're going to have to focus on multiple things, this can be when you are working with a team. And let's say if you're not very much involved in the process, let's say you're developing a website and then you get all your stuff done within a week. Yeah, you prepare all the documentation, you provide all the assets, and then the developers need to work for, 2 months. Yeah, of course, you're not going to just sit and wait. You're going to be working on other things, but you still need to pay attention and review the progress and pay really attention to make sure that goal is moving forward. So that was just an example of in which cases you could potentially focus on more than one thing. Okay, here is my quarterly goal example. So I got one goal. This goal is separated in 4 projects, and also I've added measurable outcomes, because if you look at my goal, obviously I've got a title which says structure, and then the goal is to set up content flow for the rest of the year. Now that's not very clear, like what does that even mean? So you need to make sure that your goal projects are measurables so that you know that, okay, I have achieved this goal. So I know I'm going to be posting 200 videos this year. So I've done a keyword research, I've done a thumbnails for these videos, and now I'm working on the new website for the time planner, and then I'm also working on new intro outro scripting template and sign up sequence. Okay, the final point, again, same as vision, make sure your goal is written down. Your goals will be reviewed every week. when we're going to talk later about in time blocking stage, goals have to be in your face all the time, because remember, your goal is for 3 months. That's 12 to 13 weeks. Yeah, you cannot afford to sit on the fence and wait for something. You got to work on it. Every week that you spend, you need to be sure that you're on track on achieving that goal. And that's the benefit of having these short-term goals, 3 months bursts, so you feel urgency to keep going all the time. Okay, so let's do a little recap. So far we have covered a vision. We've also covered goals. Now, instead of going, from the top to bottom, we're going to use a little bit different approach. We're going to next look at CME system. Then we're going to look at the project list, and then we're going to finally meet in the middle. And I know it's probably not the most not the best way how to break the sequence instead of going straight, but it's going to be the best way to deliver the system, because in the middle it's all going to connect together. Yeah. Okay. CME. Let's finally find out what it is. Okay, CME system, what it is. Basically, CME system is the thought and idea management process that will help you to really have a clear mind at any given time. So the way it works, for an instance, you might have a thought floating in your mind, and usually it happens consistently, like all the time. We're thinking about the things, we need to do this, we need to do that, would be nice to call that person, would be nice to do that. And those thoughts are limiting our brain's capability to process other information. So if you have to focus on your primary tasks, and you have all these thoughts in your mind that, oh, I need to email that person, I need to do that later, then it's really slowing down your brain, and it stops you from being as efficient as possible. So by using this system, you're going to be able to clear it and become a lot more productive. Right, so CME is acronym for Capture, Manage, and Execute. It gives you a lot of structure on what you do, and we will go through each step by step through the process right now. Right, capture phase. So first of all, let's use 2-minute rule. If a task or activity that you think about takes less than 2 minutes, then do it instantly. There is no point to capture it, because it's just going to be waste of the resources and the waste of the process. If you have to make a phone call that takes less than 2 minutes, do it instantly. If you have to send an email, which is a quick reply, then do it instantly, instead of putting it on the system and then sending it through the process. Next, you can use Google Tasks for this activity. It's, like I said, very easy. It's a free tool. Of course, it's not necessarily. If you use something else, that's fine. But you got to capture everything that's going on in your mind to keep your mind clear and focused. And you have to review this capture list periodically. Otherwise, it's just going to create like an endless list which you won't want to look at. Okay, next step is the manage step. So this is probably the most important step. So I'll take a deep breath here and slow down a little bit. Now, this is the step that will require a lot of, like mindset shift, because usually our brains, as soon as we see some task, we look at it and we are like, oh, it's only going to take me 10 minutes, so I'll just quickly do it. Or, oh, this is going to be like 5 minutes, I'll do it. But the thing is, during those 10, 15 minutes that you're going to dedicate to that specific task, you will get distracted. You are likely to get distracted because you was already distracted, because you didn't have to do any actions. You didn't have to do any work in this stage. So you do not work on tasks during this stage. It's like a rule. It's very important. You got to be disciplined. And you use tasks and calendar to manage this step, because some tasks will be scheduled, some actionables will be going on the list, and we will talk about them in a coming slides. Okay, so how do you actually manage? Let's say you have built a list, you've captured a lot of thoughts, little things, big things, exciting things. You want to check out the destinations for your holiday. You want to surprise your spouse, and all these things that float. And you have captured them, and you keep a very clear mind. You're focused, and okay, you sit down. You're like, okay, now I'm going through the list. How to manage? So, like I said, you do not do any work here. This is not the time for you to do something. Your job is to spread out these things in appropriate places. So first action that you can do, you can delete it. Yeah, there are many things that seemed important in a moment. Trust me, once you start to capture these little things and then you go back to them a couple of hours later, you will realize how many impulsive decisions you make. You're going to be like, well, I can't believe I just wanted to, go and research because everything new was like exciting, yeah? So you'll be actually able to delete a lot of these little things. The second thing is storage. Now, this is again very important, and this is like an overflow, because you got to manage how much workload you have on yourself and how much you can handle. And the good thing to do is to store information for later, because some things that feel important now, if you store them, you'll come back to them. You'll be like, okay, actually, that's not important. Because you have to understand that the things that you do already, your schedule that you've created is important. You want to work towards those things. You're just getting distracted. There are rarely some cases when, suddenly something became more important. Yeah. The next thing is delegate. Now, as I said before, team is very important. If you want to grow and expand, you need teams. So therefore, many actions that you think about will be executed by other people. And of course, you don't just put something down and then forget about it. Let's say you send an email for somebody to adjust your website. You want to check in later and make sure that that person has done. Now, of course, in some cases, developer will come back and say, I've changed it, please review. But sometimes they might forget to put it on their list. So you don't want to go missing. So you still want to keep a control on it. So that's when it goes on delegate list. And finally, if there is like really no other person who could do it, then you're going to do this activity, but you schedule it. As you can see, there's no need for you to action anything here. You just put things in appropriate places. You approach it in a systematic and structured way. Okay, so how to manage again. So this is my list, and this is what I would generally do. First of all, like you can see a little things and bigger things. So first of all, order protein. Now I could technically do it under 2 minutes, but I was thinking like, okay, I need a certain amount that I need to order in order to get free delivery. So I thought, okay, that's not enough. So I'll do the batch order, and I also don't need urgently. So I'll just order when I have multiple things to order from Amazon. Next one, buy soya. It's just a reminder for me when I'm going to be in a shop. Last reply.io review. This is when I'm gonna review the system that I used for outreach program. And I'll probably do it by myself. So I would just schedule it as a task. I would give it a time block. We'll talk about time blocks later. Disapproved ads. Okay, this is something I could do and schedule, but before I schedule it, why not delegate it? So I have a people on my team who can handle those kind of operations, and I can just send them email and ask them to look into it. Next one, buy pasta. That's gonna go together with soy. So when I'm gonna be in a shop, I'll do that. MacBook Air insurance. Again, this is something I'll probably do by myself, so I would schedule it for later. It probably would be a time block where I do like admin related tasks. I wouldn't create a little mini time blocks for each thing. It would be just going into my admin tasks time block, which is probably like 2 hours, and then I just do all my little bits. Next one, voices, 8 voiceovers to do over weekend. This is a task for my team, so that goes on delegated list. Then I have a planned meeting after 2 weeks. It's not really set in stone, it's very open-ended. So I'll just leave it on the list, and then when it comes around, then I'll get in touch with the person and book a dentist's appointment. I didn't have to do it then, but I wanted to do it, so I'll do it when I do my admin tasks. And that's basically it. There's no actions needed. I didn't need to get distracted. I just needed to focus on what I need to do. Because once the things are in a place, we're gonna have a time to execute. And this is where we end up. So if you have followed the first and second step in a sequence, yeah, if you haven't rushed and tried to do some things, then when actually it comes to doing, it's gonna be very simple because you will know exactly what you need to do. So from my previous slide, I can now, when I end up in my time block with admin work, I can now go back and say, okay, I need to, have a look at my insurance, for my MacBook, and I can do other like admin related tasks in this one time block. So for this particular activity, you're gonna, use your Google Calendar because that's where your time block is gonna be, and then you're gonna use your Google Tasks for the project lists, and we will talk about project lists in a minute. So you do one thing at a time. Again, less is better. If you have one task, you give your focus to one task and you can get it done. If you focus on 3 things, you're not likely to finish either of them. And finally, just keep it simple. Okay, so that is CME summary. I hope that it doesn't look as scary as it did look at the beginning. Yes, CME framework or CME system, and it's just 3 simple steps. And if you do them in a sequence, you'll find it simple. It is easy to use, and you'll get so much focus and clarity, especially in that initial stage where you capture everything. At any given time, you should not have any thoughts floating around your mind. I've been practicing this for a month now, and when I'm so much more focused in the meetings. I'm so much more focused when when I'm with my team, even with my tasks and my deep work, because I don't have to think about it. And even if I am in deep work time slot and I'm writing a script or I'm doing something, if something pops into my mind, I just capture it. I capture it with Google Tasks, and it literally gives me my focus and energy back. Okay, next step, project lists. So we're moving forward, 2 more sections to go. Right, the project lists, very important. Project lists are goal oriented. Now we're gonna talk a little bit more in details with the project lists in upcoming slides, but primarily, project lists have to come out of your goals, because you're gonna use the project lists to achieve the goals, and the goals will help you to achieve your vision. Okay, they keep things organized. When you have a project list, you're not gonna have one, very long, messy list where you're gonna have to look for the things and think what needs to be done. It's gonna be separated into the multiple focal points where you need to focus, and it's easy to create with Google Tasks. Now I want to add a little bit more here on Google Tasks. Now it's not just about, it's not just because it's like my favorite tool or whatever, but you got to think about transition time. So if you capture your tasks, let's say you don't use it as a tool, you don't use Google Tasks, and you decide to capture either in your notebook or you decide to capture in your phone notes. The next thing that you need to do is you need to create project lists, because that's how you're going to get around to do them. If you use any of these other tools except Google Tasks, you're going to have to transition them from one location, from one dimension, which is your notebook or notes, onto a list, which is again, somewhere else. So these are 2 dimensions. With Google Tasks, it's very simple because it's all integrated. The lists are part of functionality. So all you have to do, you click on a task, and then you change the list. So you add it to another list. So it's very integrated. Okay, here are some mandatory lists. So these are the lists that you have to create out of the get-go. So you're gonna have a delegated list, you're gonna have a future list, and you're gonna have a maybe list. Now, delegated list we already discussed. Obviously, you know what it is. It's for your team, for other people who need to take actions as a part of, of your project. The future list is really good for overflow. You got to use this a lot. Yeah, I know it's not going to feel very comfortable because you want to get everything done, and instead of focusing on one project a week, you want to do 3 or 4 or 5. But it's really gonna, focusing on less things will make you more focused, more structured, and you'll get things done. And the thing is, once you achieve that one thing, nobody tells you that you got to wait till the next week to start to work on the next project. As soon as you finish, if you finish your project on Monday and you was planning to work for all week, then by all means pick up the next project Tuesday and the next one on Wednesday. It's all how you organize it. So that's why future lists are really important, because you can postpone things. You can leave them for later, and you got to focus on primary, most important things. And maybe lists are for the things that would be nice, but they're not critical. Like, it would be nice to go to see that person, but hey, I need to focus on my business and do the things. It would be nice to do X, but I want to focus on this thing. So maybe list is also good. It's also good, for example, when you have some spare time. For example, I have some things on my maybe list that I will want to do. I will definitely do at some point. So let's say if you are, if you had planned a meeting or you had planned a specific activity, and then that time block frees up, then you can open your maybe list and you can be like, hey, I can now contact that person. Whether it's a phone call, Skype call, or maybe sending a lengthy message to some of your friends. That's when you can use this maybe list. So you don't have to kill the time, because what's the first thing you're going to do if something falls out? Let's say you had a planned meeting, now you have 45 minutes free. You don't want to lose yourself in social media or just killing the time. You can jump on your maybe list and get some little things sorted. Right, amount of the lists. You should aim at having around 3 projects lists in addition to 3 mandatory lists. So that's in total 6 lists. And again, I keep bringing this up again and again, and I hope you're not getting tired. Less things you focus on, more productive you will become. And it's not just a theory, it's a reality. It really, really works. I have narrowed my goals down to having just one, and same with the projects. Even when I have a project, I would focus on one focal thing until it's done and then move into the next one, because nothing changes in the long run. In the long run, it's actually better, because once you finish one thing, you can give your 100% attention to the next thing. Okay, what goes on a list? Only actionable items go on a list. This is super important. I needed to put 100 exclamation marks in this slide. What goes on a list is only actionables. There is not a vague things that go on the list, because it's going to destroy the whole structure that we've just been talking about. So that is one of the very important things to really learn, to make the tasks very narrow and very actionable. And we'll look at some samples now. So what is actionable? Actionable is something that you can do in one sitting. Okay, let's look at some bad examples. Yeah, and if you have any of these on your to-do list and you can't seem to complete them, then you will know why. So bad samples: work on website. Yeah, very unclear, very broad, literally uncompletable task. Read more, again, and study. Yeah, nothing is clear. So to make it all more clear, what should go on your actionable list? I mean, these are the real things that we're talking about. This is how you have to transform. If you read the task and it's not clear that you can sit down and get it done, then this is what needs to be done. First of all, let's go through these good examples. So we've got test website on mobile resolution. Okay, so we know exactly what we need to do. We need to sit down. We need to pull out our mobile phones, landscape, portrait mode, check out all the sections, and then send email feedback to the developer and say, hey, everything is working fine, or hey, this on this particular page, I can't see the button, or checkbox is missing or something. Next one, read chapter 2 in the book 10x Rule. Yeah. Again, it's very clear that what needs to be done. Now, you would probably read in your spare time, so it's not that important. But if it was important, for example, in study case, where you need to read a specific chapter, then it's very, very important. So, and the last one, complete math homework. Instead of just study, time block study, that's more specific, that's specific actionable that you can complete. Okay, so the next thing, multi-level actionables. Now, this is probably one of the most, maybe not complex things in a whole system, but this is where things can get confusing. Now, you're going to be sometimes in a situation where, I said actionable is something that you do in one sitting, and then you got this task, which is kind of not done in one sitting, because you need to communicate with your developer, and then he needs to come back to you, and then you need to do something with that information. So the question is, what do you do? Because I'm telling you, only actionables can go in a list, and you're saying, well, I can't really make it on I can't really do it in one sitting because it requires multiple steps. So you got two options here. So number one is you can create project out of it. Yeah. Yes, I know I said the projects has to be created in line with your goals, and they can only come from goals. But if the task is complex, you have to make project out of it. And again, you need to keep a limited amount of project lists. So like we discussed, about 3 project lists plus 3 mandatory lists that you'll have. And you can move this project list into the future list, which is what you're gonna work on later. And the alternative is also use subtasks in Google Tasks application or desktop version. Basically, it allows you to do multi-action tasks, subtasks. So basically, if you have to do 1, 2, 3, like little things, I would just probably do the subtasks. And then again, if the item goes on a list and you got to pick it up, then you don't have to look at it and think like, it's going to make your brain become very fatigued and tired when you think like, okay, this is multiple steps, how I'm going to do that. Instead, if you have got like 3 or 4 little steps, then you can just do 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so you spread it out. So this is how you go about, when you are in the situation. And like I said, there is a very narrow line. I would like to keep this simple, like black and white. Like this is actionable, this is project, this is goal, and this is vision. Like 4 things that can only happen. But life is more complex than that, and that's why in here it's very important that you have to make decision on your own. I would say, for example, if I have to, let's say, hire a new app developer, that would be definitely a project for me, because I know that I'm gonna need to go through, writing a writing a job description, posting it, then reviewing, shortlisting, interviewing, giving them a sample job. So that's a whole project. Yeah, that's a big thing. But if it was something smaller, like updating the website specific section, and there's only like two actions involved, like me writing a description and then sending it to developer to adjust and then reviewing, then I would probably use a subtasks. But it's totally up to you how you want to use it. Okay. Again, so this is another little bit complex step. So when you manage, when you're at your manage step in CME system, and how does that work together with the project list? Again, this is very important, and I've put together like 2 very important slides. So pay close attention. So when you manage your captured thoughts or tasks, some of them will become projects and some will become actionables. This is what we already discussed. Yeah. So you got to make sure that when you spend this time to actually manage your tasks, that you make that decision, because this is where you need to pay like all your energy. Instead of thinking, oh, I can really quickly do this 10-minute task, you got to make a right decision here, whether you decide this is a project, this is going to be a subtask. So you got to break it down. So that's where your energy needs to go. So when you're doing your managing stage, you should have your goals in front of you. So like I said before, last slide for the goals was you got to write down your goals. So now when you do this managing stage, You got to pull out your goals. If it's on your notebook, open it. If it's on your wall, take it down and put it on your table. If it's online, then open the document. And the last tip is don't create and focus on too many projects at the same time. Like I said, this is the key. Less things you focus on, more productive you will be. It's because you're gonna see instant progress. You're gonna be instantly, once you put all your time into that specific thing, you're gonna get it done and you're gonna move on to the next thing. Okay, let's have a look at my project lists. So what I have on my list. So I've got 3 mandatory lists. You can see them on the right hand side. So I've got future, maybe, and delegated. And then I've got 3 project lists. So I have a content next 100, coaching group list, and blog list. So these are my 3 lists. And I focus on one project at a time if possible. Now, I mentioned this when we talked about the goals that you have to do, like instead of I have 4 goals, 1 year time, you say I have 1 goal, 1 quarter, another goal, another quarter. Same you can do with the projects. Yeah, you got 1 project, 2 weeks, second project, 2 weeks, and then you work towards your goal. So you narrow down to one thing and then you work towards it. So that's probably the best approach and most productive approach. Okay, project list summary. So hold up to 6 lists. Only add actionables on the list, very important. And main thing, keep it simple. Okay, so this is where we meet in the middle. So we started from the vision, we looked at goals, then we looked at CME system and project lists, and now it all gonna come together. Okay, time blocks. Time blocks are providing a structure in your life. It's really, really important that, you structure things because it's going to be easier to focus on them. Yeah. It's also a great way to track your time. So if you want to look back and if you have time blocked your week, then it's going to be easy to, to look back and say, oh, last week I actually spent a lot of time on client work, or instead, I was working on a lot of content, and then you can adjust as you plan the following weeks. And it's easy to create with Google Calendar. Again, it provides on a desktop, it provides drag and drop function. So it's really easy, especially if you are somebody whose schedule is changing, you might be afraid like, oh, like my projects never go according to plan, I'm gonna have to change. That's fine. It's not the reason not to plan. So you can use drag and drop and just basically drag time blocks around. But at least, when you have a time block and when you come to the time block and you're like, okay, I'm not going to have a time to do that, or something else is happening, you still have that time block. So what you do, you drag it somewhere else so it doesn't disappear. The activities that you plan to do doesn't disappear. And that's really important. That will keep you accountable and make sure that you actually complete it. So time blocks work because they're very focused on activities. If you have a list, you might think, oh, I just need to do this. But then when you have a time blocks, you're going to have time block for this activity, and this activity. So it's it drives all the focus in one thing for a certain period of the time. Then it drives all the focus in the second thing for a certain period of the time, and then in the third thing. So that's why time blocks are really, really working, and it's really a great way to manage and plan your time. They also protect your time, yeah? Because once you plan out your things, it's really easy to plan ahead because there's going to be a lot of things trying to distract you. I also have constantly queries, requests. Hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to go out? All I need to do is just look at my time blocks and I can say, nope, I can't do that because I'm doing X. This is in line with my goals. Can you be available on a weekend? No, on a weekend I'm doing, Y. And it's going to protect your time. You got to protect your time because everybody will want to have a piece of it. Yeah. And always make sure that you plan your time in line with your goals. So that's why when you're going to do your weekly review, you're going to have to make sure that your goals are present. You look at your goals, you have them in front of you. Okay, this is how my typical week looks like. I know it might seem overwhelming. Don't worry, it's fine. I've done this for years. So my week usually starts with Saturday. That's how I set my schedule. You'll see that I do my strategic planning and I plan the week ahead. I usually wake up at 4:30. This is my current routine. I don't always do that, but I try to stick around 5. But at the moment, 4:30 is working amazingly good. And obviously, all my activities are planned. If somebody wants to have a piece of my time, there is not much space for it because everything is planned out to make sure that I can achieve my goals and my vision. Okay, like I said before, it might seem like, oh my God, you got everything planned back to back, and what if something doesn't go according to plan? Well, there is a very simple explanation. You can see that almost every day, except Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have a buffer times. Yeah, and a buffer time is when I don't have anything planned. It's just like if I need to catch up with something, or I can work towards something else. If I have finished all my existing time blocks, then I can just work towards some other things like next projects. Yeah, so you can see almost 2 hours every day. Now I don't have anything on Tuesday, Thursday. This is because I create content, and I've been doing that for over half year now, and I know exactly what I can get done within those time frames. So I don't really need, there is a bit of a buffer in the time blocks themselves, so I need to, if I need to adjust, or if I fall a little bit behind, I can just catch up with myself. And also there are, if you can see, before the, dinner and cooking times, there are a bit of a time slots. And I also try to break down my schedule. So you'll see that, throughout the week, I will have a snack break in the morning, and then I would have a lunch break, and then I would have a gym session. So you can see that it's not like I'm going like completely in a deep mode for like 8 hours straight. It's quite broken down, and I like to, I like to do that because I like to go deep, then have a rest, give my, brain time to catch a breath, and then go into another, deep work slot. Okay, this is how my typical Saturday does look like. So on Saturdays, I do my strategic planning and admin work, and I also do my weekly shopping. And because there is no very complex activities, it's almost like a holiday for me. So I have some free time in the evening. I've got buffer time. So I would, like I said, the most important activities I always plan earlier. So whatever is harder is first thing in the morning, and then it goes as it gets easier. So I'm gonna have a strategic planning, then I'm gonna review a log with a client, then I would do my manage slot. By the way, remember the little second step in the CME system. This is where it is. This is where I distribute my tasks. I don't do any work, but I focus on distributing my tasks and planning them throughout the week. So this is really, really important. And then obviously I do admin work. This is where I review my team's work. So the team is working on voices, on videos, on scheduling content and checking stuff. And then I need to sit down and review it to make sure that everything is fine. Then I do a bit of a keyword research, and that's it for the rest of the day. It's shopping, buffer time. So I can do something maybe during the week I need to catch up, or sometimes there are additional things landing on my plate, so I really need to look into that. Okay, so as if we obviously this is my strategic time block, how it looks inside when I actually click on it. So let's go back. So the second time slot in a purple color, it's called strategy. This is when I click on it. So I have a little report inside of it. So I review my previous week and I fill in the report. So this includes my performance, my team, things that I plan to achieve, updates on my app development, content, some comments from myself, whether I need to adjust my schedule based on, some of my workload. And then also, very important, you will see the link. That link takes me to my goals. When I do my report, I always look at my goals. Very, very important. Yeah. So I do this report. I plan out my next week because, like I said, on Saturdays, I plan out the following week. And then I send my report to the coach. So that's basically how my strategy time block looks like. Okay, this is my typical Tuesday. Tuesdays are my content creation days. So the same, I would wake up early. I would start my day with scripting. In typical Tuesday and typical Thursday, I write 2 scripts. I do voice recordings for 2 scripts, and I do 2 video descriptions. So, in the morning, I have 3 time blocks to do scripting. Again, like I said, the hardest is the task earlier in the morning. Then as the day wears off, I lose some willpower, I lose some motivation. So I got to take easier tasks. So the hardest for me is writing, because it's very creative. It demands a lot of my, effort and energy. Then I do voice recording because it's easier. It's kind of a step down. It's just reading my scripts. Of course, I still need energy. I need to put in energy in reading out those scripts. And then also, finally, I finish my day with descriptions. So that's basically how my typical Tuesday looks like. Okay, time blocking summary. Right. Number 1, don't be afraid from structure in your life. I know one of the biggest reasons people don't like to time block is because they're like, oh my God, I want to be spontaneous. I'm not going to have any time to do. But the thing is that you control your schedule. You can plan your schedule as you want. If you want to have free time in your schedule, then plan for it and have a free time. The structure will only make you more productive, and that means that you're going to have more time. What happens with the people who are spontaneous, they don't plan. Things land on their plate in the last minute when they're not prepared, and then they always complain that they never have enough time. Whereas people I know that are really structured, they can move their schedule around. I can always arrange, meetings with them. We can catch up and have a good time, and that they're not feeling stressed out or or overwhelmed. They are planning and organizing things. Okay, it doesn't take as much time as you think, especially if you use Google Calendar. Like I said, the time block. Drag and drop editor is magic. You don't have to recreate anything. You can just copy paste the blocks, drag them where they're supposed to be, and that's it. And you also can adjust easily. Like I said, if the activity is there and now it's changing, just drag it somewhere else and give it space. And finally, keep it simple. Yeah, don't overthink. Simpler you keep the things, easier it will be. Okay, finally we did it. That was a blast. So we covered all the steps. We covered vision, we covered goals, we covered time blocks just now, and we also covered project lists and CME system. So I believe that if you take your things, all your tasks, projects, everything, and you put in a framework, in a visible framework, you will see exactly where you need to focus your attention and what's in line with what you want to achieve. The reason why you might be struggling and not being as productive as you want is because you have spread out all the things, and your project might not be in line with your goal. And then you might have multiple goals, and then you might have a project or goal not in line with the vision. And all of that is, your brain is constantly trying to make sense, like, why do this? Why do that? And if it's not in a line, it's really difficult, and you will find yourself procrastinating and having all these things that actually, doesn't exist as much. Procrastination, distractions. Yeah, if you're doing things that doesn't contribute to your goals, of course you're going to be procrastinating. I mean, who wants to be doing things that they don't want? But once you line everything up, you're going to be able to really pick up things and focus on them. So 2 final tips. Focus on the less things. I've mentioned it so many times during this presentation. The less things you focus on, better it will be. You will magically become more productive. It goes for the goals, 1 goal per quarter. Trust me, once you focus on 1 goal, what happens is your attention, when you have multiple things, you can always justify. If I ask you how the first thing is going, you can say, well, I was working on second thing, and then how the second thing was going, I was working on the first thing. You always justify. But when you have 1 thing, you have nowhere to go. You got to put all your effort towards it, and it's going to produce amazing results. And and the second thing is be more specific. Again, one of the reasons why you can't sit down and work on your tasks is probably because they're not actionables. They are broad, they are not specific, they're not achievable. Yeah. So if you have a clear task, you don't need that much willpower to sit down and do it. You know, you just have to be smart about this managing step in CME system where you decide, okay, I can't put this task on my list. Yeah, this has to be a project. There is too many variables involved, or this has to be a multiple step task because there are, you know, multiple steps. And once you do that, you know, it's going to be producing a great results, and you will be able to see like a quick progress because now you got one thing you focus on and you just keep going at it. Okay, guys, thank you very much. It's been amazing. Thanks for watching the whole presentation. I would also like to thank to flaticon.com for providing the assets for this presentation. So the next step from here is to join me in a live videos. So as I said, every week in the Facebook group, I'm going to be doing live coaching videos where we're going to go through different aspects and optimizing how we can do this better. What's the better approach? How we can create it, you know, to be more effective, and really making these incremental changes over a period of the time and improving over time. So if you happen to watch this video outside the Facebook group, yeah, and you're like, hey, I also want to join the lives, then look at the description somewhere around this video. There will be probably a link that will take you to the group where you can join. Okay, it's been amazing to go through this with you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me and I'll be more than happy to get back to you. Thank you very much and bye.